Nobody more important to Memphis in the cabinet than Secretary Buttigieg. We are a transportation city. We welcome you here. We hope you'll come back many times, and we hope you'll enjoy your visit. Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Well, thank you very much, first of all, to Congressman Cohen, who I'm sure you already know is a relentless advocate for this region. I do mean relentless, and would expect nothing less, but also is one of the reasons why we are able to talk about more funding headed to the roads and bridges and airports and transit systems of Memphis, of Tennessee, of Arkansas, of the entire United States of America. There is a direct line of cause and effect between the legislation that he supported, President Biden's vision for a generational investment in our country's infrastructure, and the work that is taking place now in every part of the United States. And so we are thankful for that support and that attention to the importance of our transportation infrastructure. We really appreciate it, Congressman. Thanks very much. It is a pleasure to be here with Mayor Strickland, son of South Bend. We will always claim you. And somebody who is doing the work of mayor that is so important and has only become even more demanding since I had the honor of wearing that title in my hometown. I'm pleased to be here with Deputy Administrator Brad Mims, with Shanetta Griffin, and so many colleagues from the FAA, the thousands of men and women of the FAA who make it possible for millions of passengers and millions of packages to get to where they need to be safely every single day. And I'm so pleased to be with CEO Scott Brockman, with Chairman Mike Keeney, with leaders from FedEx, all of the people who make this facility and this airport what it is. And also so glad to be among the people associated with the Luke Weathers Flight School, the instructors and the students. We had a great visit with OBAP in Arizona during the gathering there, saw the extraordinary work that is taking place to cultivate a new generation of leaders in aviation. And it's never been more important, first of all, to make sure that the sector looks like the country. And secondly, because this is a country that in today's economy cannot afford to leave any talent on the table. And I'm so glad to see the work that's going on there and to partner with you. So thank you for what you do. And congratulations to everybody who has been part of building and delivering this major difference-making investment here in Memphis, because this is a key hub to the entire country and indeed to global logistics. I appreciated the chance I just had to meet with a number of workers, including pilots, truck operators, tower operators, all of the workers here who are not always seen, don't always get credit for their hand in making sure things get to where they're going, especially this season. But it isn't just reindeer. It is essential workers who make sure that people get what they need. And now that everybody in the country has maybe belatedly come to appreciate how important supply chains are, we want to make sure we're supporting you with the right kind of infrastructure, because it is human beings who make supply chains work every day. So thanks for everything that you do. We are now in the thick of the holiday shopping season. I know parents everywhere are ordering the toys that their kids are talking about nonstop, or in the case of our one-year-olds that aren't yet able to articulate what they want, all the things that their parents and their grandparents can't wait to see them wearing and playing with. And of course, across the country every day, businesses are ordering all of the things that they need in order to have a successful season. We saw record-breaking sales Black Friday, and we know across all of that air cargo operations like this, the biggest and busiest in America, are absolutely essential. Now, before we get more into today's good news, I do want to do a quick Ghost of Christmas Past just to remind us of where we were a year ago in the last holiday season. Because Americans then were understandably very concerned about whether they would get the things they needed. Pandemic had stressed our global supply chains. We had about 100 container ships bearing down on the West Coast any given moment. And there were some political and media voices proclaiming breathlessly that Christmas was going to be, quote, canceled last year. But of course, we weren't going to let that happen. Partnering with the private sector, the administration got to work bringing together players from across the supply chain, longshoremen, truck drivers, state leaders, local governments, and a number of supply chain-oriented businesses, notably including FedEx, who was at the table with us early and often, finding ways to address many of the biggest disruptions. People received almost 99% of their packages on time or with minimal delays from major shippers. Retail sales hit an all-time record high, and so did throughput at our ports. So Christmas last year was very much not canceled. And this year, we are down to single-digit numbers of ships waiting at the ports of LA and Long Beach. Many rates, including some Pacific shipping costs, are down 80%, which should ultimately serve to reduce the prices that Americans are seeing at the store at this moment where we're fighting inflation with everything that we've got, and help people get what they need on time. So I just want to remind us of that arc. But now we're working on further strengthening our supply chains to ensure that goods can move efficiently today and next year and for years to come. So let's be clear, we are going to continue tackling every issue that comes up. But this is no longer just about fixing the immediate term supply chain disruptions that we have seen in the wake of COVID. This is about making sure our supply chains are more resilient and our economy is more competitive in the face of any challenge in the coming decades, including from increasingly extreme weather. And that brings us to the terrific project that we're celebrating today. We are so proud to join you to mark the successful completion of this 3.3 million square foot airport de-icing project at Memphis International Airport, the biggest cargo airport in the country. Congratulations on this terrific work. This is a facility that will be able to de-ice 12 wide-body cargo aircraft at the same time, right before they hit the runway, helping to get toys and food and medicine and so many other things where they need to go quickly and efficiently. And it's also about reducing the cost of shipping those goods, because modernizing our supply chains is a critical element in that fight against inflation. I also want to congratulate the project sponsors here for finding a way to separate the drainage of that de-icing fluid so that it can be used in helping to sanitize the city's wastewater. And as every mayor knows, getting wastewater right is one of the most important things that very few people know and everybody counts on. It's an example of how the environment and taxpayers can benefit at the same time. It is a real state-of-the-art operation, and I know most people aren't maybe the supply chain buffs that so many of us in this room are, but there's a subset of us who find as much to get excited about in Memphis at a great de-icing facility as there is at Graceland. Now, our focus today is goods traveling by air, but I do want to give a quick update on the passenger side as well, because we know that airlines this summer struggled to keep up with the surging demand. Things got better since early summer, with cancellation rates across the busy Thanksgiving holiday week down below 1%. But we're looking to airlines to continue to take steps to address these challenges. And I want passengers to know, if you are flying this holiday season and you're worried about what could happen to you if your flight gets delayed or canceled, you should know that you can go to our airline customer service dashboard to see exactly what every major airline will do when there's a disruption, whether they'll offer free rebooking, hotels, meal vouchers, and the like. You also ought to know that if your flight is significantly changed, the airline, in the event of a major change or a cancellation, is required to give you a full refund if you ask for one. And if you're having trouble getting one, let us know, because to date we have helped passengers recover hundreds of millions of dollars in required refunds. And for the long term, we are also making big investments in airport terminals nationwide. We funded a new terminal in Pittsburgh, new gates in Orlando, more bathrooms in Chattanooga, better escalators in Huntsville, faster security checkpoints, baggage drop-offs, check-in counters, custom areas, and boarding zones in dozens of airports. And I know there's been a lot of terrific work taking place here in Memphis on the passenger side as well, and we know that applications will be coming in, I'm sure, with enthusiastic attention from your member of Congress to look at what that program can do for this community. And it's not just airports either. As we think back to the last time I was here, as the Congressman mentioned, looking at the I-40 DeSoto Bridge and how important that is to this region. With the historic funding that we have, thanks to the Congressman and his allies, including a number of people across the aisle to work with Democrats and work with the President to get this done, We are modernizing the transit buses in Memphis, so workers here and across the region have new options to get to work. We're building new truck parking outside of Nashville so that truck drivers coming to and from this hub can get the safe rest that they need. It's all an example of what building a better America looks like in practice, and that is the President's infrastructure vision brought to life in ways that make everybody's lives better. So again, I want to thank all of the workers who are so instrumental to the economic lifeblood of this nation, whether people realize it or not, who are an indispensable part of the holiday season and every season, and who will now have the benefit of world-class physical infrastructure to help you do your incredibly important jobs. Thank you again. Have a great holiday, and I look forward to seeing more great news out of Memphis. Thank you very much.
Hey, Secretary, welcome back to Memphis. How are you, sir?
Good to be back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody. I don't have a till mark, so I'll just stand here.
So, Secretary, this facility, for shoppers out there for the holidays, what will this mean for those getting gifts, receiving gifts? How will this help in Memphis and across the country?
Well, two things. It helps things get to where they need to be on time, and it ultimately helps make shipping more affordable, too, by cutting down on delays and keeping the overall cost of shipping down. Plus, it supports a lot of good-paying jobs in this region and across the country. Look, I know most people, when you're seeing a present under the tree, you're not thinking to yourself, oh, I wonder how they de-iced the plane that took this present to where it was going so it could come to my doorstep. But the thing about supply chains is it's all connected from ship to shore to shelf, and this is a big part of it. Plus, it's got environmental benefits and efficiency benefits. So these are the kinds of investments that keep our supply chains moving, and that's why I wanted to help bring some attention to it today.
And FedEx going to the global hub, how important is Memphis in all of this?
Look, this is the busiest air cargo hub in North America, and so it is something of global importance, certainly of great importance to the U.S. economy, and that's why we think federal dollars ought to go into improving airports like Memphis and helping them prepare for the future.
How likely the project was funded by federal dollars, about $80 million of that discretionary, and that was the justification for the federal government stepping in and helping fund this project because of how integral the Memphis airport is to the supply chain, right?
That's right. When we're deciding where discretionary transportation dollars ought to go, we're looking at safety, we're looking at economic strength, we're looking at equitable growth, we're looking at environmental benefit, and we're looking at preparation for the future. All of those things are involved in the investments we're making at airports like this. The safety part is self-evident, that's what de-icing is about, but also huge investments in our economic strength are represented by this programming. And this is, I think, why we had a lot of good support, including some support across the aisle, although not as much as I wish, to do these investments. It's the right thing to do for the economy, it's the right thing to do for workers, it's the right thing to do for customers.
Is that kind of support possible after the Republicans become a majority in the House?
Well, the good news is we got that bill passed and the president signed it. I would like to think that transportation is one of the most bipartisan areas that still remains in domestic policy. But we were able to get this done, I think, for the reason that most Americans expected of us. They're not interested in partisan warfare. They're interested in getting better airports and roads and bridges and trains and transit and the rest of it. That's what the president believed. And remember, a lot of people laughed at the idea that you could get this done on a bipartisan basis. I mean, there was, I can't remember how many times people said that this infrastructure package was dead before we got it passed. The president signed it, and now we're already into year 2 of getting those dollars out on the street.
Are we going to have a rail?
Let's go to Sam.
Are we going to have a rail system?
Well, we just can't. There is no substitute for a functioning rail system in this country. That's why the president has called on Congress to enact that tentative agreement that was reached at the table. And the sooner they can do that, the more we can all be confident that things will continue into this holiday season and for the future in a way that's good for the economy and not putting the economy at risk.
How likely do you think Congress is to get that done and actually act in a purpose?
Well, I can't speak for Congress, but what I'm seeing is a very strong level of motivation to get this done. Look, this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. This is about making sure that our economy avoids what would be the devastating consequences of a shutdown. Nobody got everything they wanted in this tentative agreement, but all of the parties had to move to get there. When it was reached, it earned praise from labor, business, Democratic, and Republican leaders alike. Now we've got to make sure that it gets enacted and that everybody can count on that economic certainty, because without it, from the auto industry to farms across America to everyday life, the consequences would just be unacceptable.
For families out there, how would you compare this holiday season with the supply chain compared to last year? You kind of
Yeah, I mean, look at where we were a year ago. There were 100 ships waiting their turn at the ports of LA, Long Beach. Last time I checked, that was below a dozen. So there have been enormous improvements for our supply chains. But we're not letting go. We're not taking it easy. There's more work to do, including longer-term work, which is what facilities like this de-icing ramp and a whole lot of other investments we're making around the country are all about.
Obviously, this is important for cargo, FedEx, having a supply chain, but talk about the importance with commercial flights and passengers that just went through a horrific summer with travel. De-icing can delay flights, some can cancel it. This can help prevent that.
That's right, and there have been a lot of improvements on the passenger side here at Memphis, and again, around the country, we're seeing a lot of work going on, which is an important part of how we support aviation. Look, demand is returning, that's great, but the capacity is having trouble keeping up. So anytime there can be an investment in a better baggage claim system, a bigger terminal, more security checkpoints so that people can flow through more easily, that's good news for every air passenger. I'm really encouraged by the improvement we've seen since all those cancellations in early summer, but there's a lot more work to do, and we're doing that work, putting our money where our mouth is in these investments.
You said modernizing the supply chain is a way to help lower inflation and
That's right.
lowering the cost it takes to ship goods, whether it's Christmas presents, medicine, what have you. Do you see Memphis as being sort of a catalyst for other airports to sort of follow this suit and do what we can from a modernization perspective to lower those costs of shipping?
I think it can be. Certainly some things here like the system that separates the de-icing fluid and repurposes some of those elements. That's what it means to have both cost-effective and environmentally responsible investments, and that's what I think the future of infrastructure is going to look like.
I know last year we talked when the bridge was down, we talked about maybe a third bridge going over Memphis. Since then, has any discussions changed on that topic?
I'd refer you to the states on that one, because they put together those transportation improvement plans for the long run. But what I will say is that we have resources that we didn't have before to address some of these long-term needs for infrastructure, and also glad, of course, to see the improvements that happened in short order there on the DeSoto I-40 bridge.
We got time for one more, folks.
I want to ask, I'd be remiss, we're a stone's throw away from the Mississippi River experiencing historic lows. That is affecting supply chains in that regard.
Yeah.
This being the fourth largest inland port, if you want to add to that logistical resume, any indication from your office on, while this is great, what the river might be doing to the supply chain during this holiday season?
Yeah, it's a real concern. I was just briefed on it again earlier this week, because that is something that can really affect supply flows. And again, there are some cargo movements where there's not a very good substitute for that river-going traffic that most people don't think about every day. From what I can tell, there's some modest improvements. Things may be trending, at least in the short run, in an encouraging direction. But this is an issue that we're tracking, and it's a reminder, yet another reminder, of how every part of our transportation system is vulnerable to what's going on in our changing climate. We've got to plan for that and get ahead of that for the century to come.
Thanks, Secretary.
Thanks, Secretary.